All right. How's everyone doing today? Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thank you all for attending this first week one webinar, Changing the Paradigm. I will be your coach and presenter, Coach Michael 9X. And I want to thank all of you for attending this webinar and taking the time out to take a closer look into some ways into how you can better get a handle of your transformation when it comes to weight reduction and healthy lifestyle. And so what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at just some information about how this paradigm that we're living under is not really conducive to our overall health and well-being. And so before I get into it, the information that you're going to hear today is not approved by the FDA, and none of the information that you're going to hear today is designed to cure, prevent, or avoid any kind of serious disease. So I'm going to put it out there before we get into it. So let's get right into it. The psychology of fasting and reversing insulin resistance. Everything that we're going to be talking about is going to be predicated around hormonal imbalance and how to address insulin resistance. So force to power, fasting and fitness brings freedom. All right, so that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on fasting and fitness, okay? How we fast, methods of fasting, the types of fast that we do, and including exercising to improve our fitness. Okay, so what is our mission? Our mission is to prevent unnecessary metabolic disease by reversing insulin resistance and replacing the current paradigm with a new one. So I believe that the way that we think, either individually or a collective, brings about a particular outcome or result. And so the current paradigm that we're in does not bring us the result that we're looking for. Evidence is, look at the rate of obesity, heart disease, diabetes. And we are all laboring under a similar ideology of nutrition and health, which is, I call it death culture, okay? So our method is to provide adequate education on fasting protocols to establish personalized dietary regimens for each member. Okay, so we have a protocol that we're going to pretty much outline protocol that we can follow, but tweak based on your own individual preferences and lifestyle. So we have 3 fitness phases: aerobic, anaerobic, and HIIT. Phase 1 is aerobic phase. It's a metabolic approach for people who need to address weight loss and insulin resistance. See, as a trainer, I've taught fitness for 20 plus years. And I always thought that there was only one way to help people lose weight, and that was to kick their butt. I mean, really kick their butt. And the harder I made them work, I thought that the better it was for them. But guess what? A lot of those people who came in with weight to lose, they didn't lose the weight. There's a reason why. And most of my clients who were already lean or didn't have a lot of weight to lose, they were just trying to maintain. And that is what phase 2 is about. Phase 2 is an anaerobic phase. Fitness classes for general maintenance and improved fitness. And this is what I was training people to do. My level in solid fitness was all about phase 2, maintaining that fitness level or just general maintenance. Phase 3 is high intensity interval training for the highly fit population. So phase 2 and phase 3, we can kind of work together with, or they can kind of blend together. But phase 1 is strictly for that population that needs to shed the fat due to metabolic conditions. So conventional wisdom, what do they say? Now, every time I talk to people about diet ideas and different things to do to improve their health, people always come back and say, well, they say I should, or they say this is. Who is they? A bunch of people, in my opinion, who might be bought and paid for by food companies, pharmaceutical companies, just to guide and herd the population into one direction for someone else's benefit. Okay, so they are people really who follow conventional wisdom for what? To herd the public, to mass herd the population into a direction that doesn't really benefit the herd, but it benefits a small group of people. And mostly it's financially. So what do they say? Well, they say you should eat 5-6 times a day. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. They say you should have, low fat and higher carbohydrate diets. That's what they say. Okay. They say, if you don't lose weight or get better, get healthier, it's your fault. If you're obese, it's your fault because you don't have the willpower. That's what they say. Well, they are wrong, wrong, wrong. And they are leading this country into hell as we speak. So the fasting foundation, the psychology of fasting, we're all about fasting. Guys, what is fasting and how is it different than starvation? Well, fasting is voluntary abstention from food for spiritual or health reasons. Today, we are finishing up Ramadan. Tomorrow will be the last day of Ramadan. And so it's a spiritual observation, but we use fasting to assist with that spiritual observance. Starvation is involuntary abstention from food. It is neither deliberate or controlled. So when you're starving, you have no choice but not to eat. You have no choice but not to eat. There's no food available. You're starving, okay? So that's the difference. So the trick is this. People who want to downgrade or discredit a fasting protocol will describe fasting as starving because starving has a negative connotation. Starving is a negative word. Well, no one wants to starve, right? When you think of starving, you think about the children and people over in certain poor third world countries who have no food, right? They're starving, right? And so when they want to throw fasting under the bus because they have a product or a system that they want to sell you, and they know fasting works, they'll use the word starving rather than fasting. But there's a big difference between the two. So fasting is a practice of everyday life. Consider waking up from sleeping 8 hours overnight. The first meal you will have is breakfast. Look at the word breakfast. This meal that you have breaks your fast, breakfast, which is done daily. This meal does not have to be the first meal in the morning. It can be stretched out to the middle of the day. So your first meal is your break fast, okay? During Ramadan, our breakfast is at between 8 and 8:30. That's our breakfast. That's when we're breaking our fast. And so this society, because they want to do what? They want to sell you carbohydrates for in the morning when you first wake up. It's a marketing thing. So that's why they make breakfast the most important meal of the day. So breakfast food companies will say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And here's a nutritious, healthy breakfast for you: cereal, bagels, yogurt, parfaits, this. Have breakfast because we want to sell you our breakfast food, okay? Because if you don't eat in the morning and stretch your meal out to lunch, most likely you won't have quote unquote breakfast food. You won't have pancakes, waffles, yogurt, bacon, eggs, whatever they sell or categorize as breakfast AM food. You're going to have something more suitable in your mind for lunch food, a salad or whatever, right? Something like that, a hoagie or whatever it is that you have during the middle of the day, leftovers from dinner last night, right? You're not going to have your typical American style breakfast, okay? You're not going to have it. So that's the whole scheme behind, stretching out your breakfast past the AM hours. Push it out towards the middle of the day or later. Why is fasting good for weight loss? When we eat, we ingest food energy that will be used for energy as stored fat. The hormone responsible for food being stored as fat is called insulin. Sugars and proteins trigger the insulin spike, while fat has very low to no impact on insulin. Well, how does all this relate to you and your weight loss without getting too scientific? Well, when you are in a fasted state, your body is not using food energy, okay? Nor is it storing it. This removes the need for insulin, and now the body can rely on using its own stored sugar and fat for energy. Now, do you know how they used to combat, they try to scientifically rebuttal fasting by saying this: well, if you don't eat, that's not good, because once you finally eat, what's going to happen is your body is going to store all that fat, and because it's thinking that it's starving. That's what they said. That's what they used to say, to tell people. But that explanation is so weak. Why is it weak? When you're fasting, your body is already using energy. It's using stored energy. It's using up glycogen. It's using up glucose in the bloodstream. It's using up fat once the glycogen reserves are depleted. It's going to go to fat. Yes, when you eat, you will store energy. That's what your body does. It stores energy when you eat. But when you're not eating, your body is still burning energy, because we are living beings. We're a machine. And if we're active somewhat, if we're exercising somewhat, and we're doing all this stuff fasted, guess what? The body doesn't get energy from air, right? In that sense, yes, oxygen is we need it, but the oxygen is used to do what? Break the energy down. That's what's called oxidation. The oxygen is used to help break fat down. With aerobic is with oxygen. So the oxygen is used to break fat down. So when we eat, yes, we store energy, but it's not making us fat. It's not saying, okay, well, you're not eating, so I'm going to hold on to this fat because I don't know when the next meal is going to. Think about that. If the body did that, if the body said, we're going to hold on to this food energy because we don't know when the next meal is going to come in because you're not eating, why is it holding on to it? So it can be used up, not to just sit there. So it can be used because there's no food energy. See, when we eat, we ingest food energy. Food energy. So when we eat, the body stores up energy so for it to be used for when we fast. What is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance, IR, is a pathological condition in which cells fail to respond normally to the hormone insulin. Insulin is a hormone that allows glucose to enter cells, which also reduces blood glucose, blood sugar. What is obesity? Obesity is an abnormal accumulation of body fat, usually 20% or more over an individual's ideal body weight. Obesity is associated with increased risk of illness, disability, and death. The branch of medicine that deals with the study and treatment of obesity is known as bariatrics. Okay? So what is diabetes? A disease in which the body's ability to produce or respond to the hormone insulin is impaired, resulting in abnormal metabolism of carbohydrates and elevated levels of glucose in the blood or urine. What is insulin? A hormone produced in the pancreas by the islets of Langerhans, which regulates the amount of glucose in the blood. The lack of insulin causes a form of diabetes. Okay? That definition, a lack of insulin causes a form of diabetes, well, I think it should be termed the other way. The presence of excess insulin causes insulin resistance because of high sugar is what causes the form of diabetes, this form of diabetes. Okay? So this is the lack of insulin causes a form. Which form? There's type 2 and type 1, see? So type 1 is more of a autoimmune disease, an autoimmune condition, okay, where the body doesn't produce enough insulin. So people have to take exogenous insulin because there's a lack of insulin. So in that case, that's type 1 diabetes. Okay, where type 2 is totally different. So signs of insulin resistance: waistline over 40 inches for males, 35 inches for women, blood pressure 130 or 80 over 80 or higher, fasting blood glucose over 100. I forgot the name of the unit. 100. I'm drawing a blank. It'll come back to me. Fasting triglycerides over 100 mgs of deciliter. Milligram, I believe it's, I forget. HDL under 40 mgs of deciliter, 50 for men and 50 for women, and skin tags and patches of dark skin called acanthosis nigricans. And so, like I've seen patches of dark skin on people, normally with diabetics, when they have, and like a lot of elderly people, they have these patches of dark skin, and like around the neck, different areas, and that's what that is, acanthosis nigricans. Risk factors and causes: obesity, belly fat, inactive lifestyle, diets rich in carbs, gestational diabetes, meds like steroids, which causes insulin resistance, and sleep problems. All these things, sleep problems causes high cortisol levels, which causes an increase in insulin, which causes insulin resistance. Fasting state versus fasting. This is critical. This is like where it all comes down to. And if you can master this, this is like it. The body exists in two states: the fed state, high insulin, and the fasted state, low insulin. You are either storing food energy or you are burning food energy, but you are never doing both at the same time. By maintaining this balance, there is no weight to gain. Same it is with losing it. Adjusting the balance of fed versus fasting is the key. Fasting transitions: feeding. As we eat, blood sugar rises, as well as insulin. Okay, to deal with the rise in blood sugar, insulin moves glucose into the cell for stored energy. Excess glucose is then stored in the liver as glycogen or is converted to fat. So as we eat and as glycogen is stored in the liver over time, this is why it's important to stay mostly in a fasted state. Because if we're in a fasted state, that glycogen that's being pulled into the liver is being pulled out for what? For bodily function, BMI, basal metabolic rate. Sorry, BMR, basal metabolic rate. When your body is at rest, okay, or just normal living, your body produces energy. It's called your basal metabolic rate. How much is being produced is based on your muscle metabolism, how much muscle you have, and so on and so forth. But excess glucose in the liver stored as glycogen, as we continue, if we eat often throughout the day, we're always storing glycogen. And the body has enough insulin to deal with, to do what it has to do. Get it out of the bloodstream into the liver. And it does that over a period of time. But after a while, as we keep eating the wrong types of food and packing glycogen into the liver, it's going to get clogged up. It's going to get full, okay? And what happens is the liver begins to generate fat, okay? It begins to generate fat, okay, in the liver, all right? And it begins to, that glycogen, because there's so much glycogen, it tries to get rid of it by converting it into fat, okay? And now you have a fatty liver, and then fat is being sent out into the bloodstream and being deposited into the different parts of the body, and that's how people become overweight. So the post-absorptive phase, 6 to 24 hours after beginning fasting, blood sugar and insulin begin to drop. The body begins to break down glycogen from the liver to supply energy. So after you've post-absorptive, 6 to 24 hours after beginning fasting, this is what happens. Glycogen begins to break down and use for energy. Gluconeogenesis, 24 hours to 2 days into the fast, your glycogen stores in the liver run out. The liver will make new glucose, and the process is called gluconeogenesis. Glucose levels will fall, but will remain in normal range in non-diabetics. So non-diabetics, glucose levels will fall, okay? And your body will make new glucose. Once the liver runs out, it will make more. So we don't need to eat sugar or be so sugar dominant in our diet. Ketosis, 2 to 3 days into the fast. The body is producing low insulin levels. This stimulates the breakdown of fat in the body for energy. This is called ketones, okay? Ketones. Protein conservation. A lot of people will say, well, if you fast, you're gonna lose muscle. It's gonna eat away at your muscles. Well, listen to this. High levels of growth hormone preserves muscle mass and lean muscle. Some people think you lose muscle when you fast, but no. Fatty acids and ketones maintain the energy for basic metabolism. So there's no need for muscle in that regard. A hormone called norepinephrine is increased to prevent a decrease in metabolism. There will be a normal amount of protein turnover, but none used for energy. So no protein will be used for energy because ketones and fatty acids will be used for the energy. Okay, so you'll be able to keep your lean muscle. That's what helps you during the day, keep burning fat for energy. In conclusion, developing the right mindset in the beginning of your fasting journey is vital. It's important that you know why you're fasting so you can get through the tough times that you might encounter. You might not want to make weight loss your primary motivation at the offset. Instead, focus more on establishing the proper habits that will lead to a successful fasting experience. And that is the most important thing I want to finish off with is make sure that you do not make weight loss or weight shedding your primary goal. Because if you adopt the proper habits and become habit forming, right? Become new habit forming, then the results of your habits will bring about what you want. It just takes some consistency, dedication, and awareness, and to be present to what you're trying to do and who you're trying to become. So don't do this as just some type of task or activity. Do this as a personal transformation. How you're going to live your life, how you're going to govern your life and food, but not govern your life around food. How you're going to govern food around your life. So your life can't be about food. If your life and everything we do is about food, then food becomes the God over us. We have to put this into proper perspective. So get your life in as the nucleus, and then use food and not use food, or engage in food or not engage in food as a tool, okay? Use food as a tool, but use it at the proper time. How many of you have hammers in your home? How often do you use a hammer? Only when you need it. So use food when you need it. Don't use food when you don't need it. And that's how, I mean, imagine if I just had a hammer, just hammering everything when I don't need it. My house would be a mess. So I use the hammer at the proper time in the proper circumstance. Use food most of your time in the proper time in the proper circumstance. And then you will have, your body will change and take shape in a different form that you've never seen before. So with that being said, that's the end of our presentation. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the presentation, be a part, and remember, stay intact, stay engaged into the presentation, or sorry, into the group, stay engaged with our activity, be a part, don't be a stranger, tune in, jump in, comment, all right? And let's make this first week a very successful one and get ready for the second one. Have a good day, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.